Yeah. Oh,
There they
they
go.
all are. I like bees. Boop, 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 boop.
All right, Dr. Young, I muted you as well, so you'll have to unmute yourself. I muted everyone.
All right, we're just waiting on the last few rejoining our session and we'll get started. Okay, I think everybody, it looks like everybody's joining in. So just one more minute, let everybody join at the same time. Okay, Dr. Young, if you'd like to begin,
Oh,
let me know. When
I'm unmuted.
I unmuted you, so you're on, and we're recording. So.
Oh, okay. I gotta behave. Hello, everybody. You just wave. You're still breathing, having fun, I hope. Well, we're all delighted to have you here. I know that you're going through all the sessions, and everybody obviously is not going into medicine, which is fine. Who knows? We might end up inspiring you. It's not unusual to have student come in one discipline and decide on another, and that's just fine. And that's one reason why we like to expose everybody to everything. I do apologize because of this ridiculous COVID that we can't be all together, but we're going to do our best to interact. Haven't done this before, not sure how we can answer questions. We'll try it in the chat room, I guess, at the end or as we go, and especially tomorrow when we do the x-ray session. A little bit about me. I am a kidney and pancreas transplant surgeon. I also do vascular access. That's for people on dialysis. And if any of you have family members on dialysis, I'm one of the people who put dialysis access in their arms with fistulas and grafts and so forth. I've been at UAB since 1997. You guys probably weren't even born then. No, everybody's shaking their head. No, yeah, I'm old. Yeah, I admit it. That's what all these other classes before you guys have done to me. No, I'm just joking. A little bit about me. I grew up in Philadelphia a long time ago. Went to Villanova. I had a 4-year track scholarship when I was there. So I ran track while I was in college, which made it a little bit more difficult to get all my academics. And we're going to talk about what's going to be required for medical school. I then went to Johns Hopkins for medical school, 4 more years there. Then back to Philadelphia for 6 more years as a general surgery resident, did a year of surgery, and then 2 more years after that to do transplant. So I wasn't done until I was 35 years old. But it's what I wanted to do. And that's one of the things I want to impart to you all, that you have your dream and you go for your dream. And that's regardless of what discipline you've chosen for yourself. So I'm going to talk about the medicine track, talk about UAB as well. But Ms. McNicholas is going to go and do a short introduction video before I get started on my talk. You're muted. I can't hear you. There we go.
I think that if you really want to see what's out there in whatever chosen field you go into, I think Birmingham's the place to see it. We have a wide variety of specialties. There's every subspecialty fellowship, and we also have children's hospital right next door as well. So as a third-year medical student, just really delving in and working side by side with the residents has been really special.
I think something that's unique about Birmingham campus is that you really get to see what a big academic center looks like.
We are the referral center for the Southeast, and we're getting to see all the very unique pathology, the sick patients, and the things that are not easily diagnosed. And I think as a student, it's really cool to get to see all these things you're learning about in the textbooks that you don't think really exist in this world, but then here at UAB, we're taking care of them on the front lines.
So I've been in Birmingham for almost 10 years now. I went to undergrad here and now medical school, and it really has changed so much since I moved here in 2009. It's grown a lot, the art scene, the food scene. Birmingham really has it all.
As an out-of-state student that didn't really know anyone when I first moved here, I was really captivated by the city of Birmingham. It's been a wonderful experience and journey, and really a privilege to be able to give back to the state of Alabama.
All right. Well, that was just a little bit of introduction of UAB. We are the largest medical center in the Southeast. We're bigger than Emory. We're bigger than Vanderbilt. We are a regional referral center. Everybody from all over the world comes to UAB, and our students are the beneficiaries of all of that. But the time's going on. Let me get ahead and start the slideshow so we can talk about that since our time is limited. Let me see if I can do this. But I'm assuming that, Carmel, that it's best just go through the chat at the end if they have questions.
Yes, so if we run out of time, we'll address as many questions as we can. If there are any left behind, we'll make sure that's posted to Canvas. And we'll have other opportunities to talk to.
I'm sorry?
We'll have other opportunities to meet.
Good. Okay, good. All right, we're going to give this a shot. Bear with me. Hopefully this will work. I think it's that one. I don't know. Maybe that one. Do you see it? Oh, share. Do you see it?
Yeah.
Oh, say something. I don't know what you can see.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay, all I have are your smiling faces. Maybe most of them. Oh. It's so much easier to just cut somebody open than to do this electronic stuff.
We can see your screen.
I can't see everybody. I'm trying to get this thing opened up. There we go. Now I can see all your smiling faces. Oh, well, most of y'all. Okay, there we go. All right. Hey, this is your future, regardless of what you do, as I said, with the disciplines. So as I said, this is primarily a talk about medicine. And one of the, I'm very practical. I do the same thing with my children. My son's 25 years old. He's he's getting his master's in social work. My daughter's just starting UAB in the fall, and she's thinking about medicine or dentistry. So a lot of the things I talk about here, I do that to them. I guess they're tired of me, but that's too bad. They can't get away because I pay the bills, so they have no choice. But anyway, hopefully you'll get something out of it. But why do you want to become a doctor? And one of the big questions is, are you willing to do what it takes to achieve that goal? As you can see from this chart, the number of physicians is not growing in proportion to the number of people who are going to need medical care. It still lags behind. It's still significantly behind in underrepresented minorities. Unfortunately, the number of African-American males in medical school is lower than it was in 1975. That's horrendous. But there are lots of social reasons why that is. It is one reason why this program exists. That also applies to Hispanic males as well. They're coming along too, but we're certainly not to the proportion of that we are in society. This chart talks about the percentage of the population in 2008 versus 2050. And you can see how the Hispanic population and African-American populations are both projected to increase. But right now, the number of African-American physicians across the board is less than 7%. And Hispanics is low in those numbers as well. And as I said, that's one reason why Robert Wood Johnson created this program, to help inspire kids such as you to get on that track and try to change those numbers. But we need more underrepresented physicians for lots of different reasons, not only for societal reasons, but also because of patients as well oftentimes identify with people of their own ethnicity. Not that everybody else can't be compassionate to everyone else, but you know, a lot of times our ethnic doctors will go back into communities that other folks may not want to practice in. All right, I got this picture off the internet because it really represents the road to medicine. Not only is this road windy, but it's also uphill. Okay, it's a long road, but it's worth it at the end. As I stated, my road was long. Like I said, I wasn't done till I was 35 years old, but it was my choice. That's what I wanted to do. That was my goal all the way up at the top. But now that I've reached that goal and been there for a while, I can pretty much do what I want in terms of medicine and my life and so forth. And that's one of the benefits of medicine, that you're able to do what you want, pick the career that you want. And that's the beauty of medicine, that there's so many opportunities that you can go into. If you're good with your hands like I was, you can go into surgery. Medicine, if you're really good at physics, which I wasn't, I did as much as I needed to, you go radiation oncology. It's completely across the board what you can do with it. So everything comes down to life with choices. You got to decide. These are just a couple. What are you willing to sacrifice? So non-essential, partying too much. Hey, party. No, not too much. It's okay to go have fun. I remember a time my friends would come by. I was trying to study for a final, and they came knocking on my door. Knock, 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 knock. And I said, what do you want? Oh, we got a party downstairs. Well, I got to study. They would not leave me alone. So I went downstairs. It was dark. The music was lousy. The floor was sticky. And I said, okay, can I leave now? So I went back and studied. So that was me. But it doesn't mean that you can't go have fun in college. It's okay to do that. And the same thing I told my daughter, but you still got to get your grades. It's just the way it is. You got to get those A's, as many as you can, because it's highly competitive. Hanging out with friends is fine, but you can't do it so much that it draws away from your study time. Frats and sororities are great. Once you guys can do community service again, shadowing, and all of that. But if they're taking away from your studying, well, you got to really consider, like, why am I doing this? You know, are you guys and gals really in my corner for me to achieve what I want to achieve? You guys just want to party and act stupid all the time. So it does take sacrifice. And this is something I told my children, boyfriends and girlfriends. Oh, baby, 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 I love you. Yeah, okay, sure. If they are preventing you from achieving your goal, you don't need them. Yeah, I know everybody shaking your head and smile. I don't care. Baby, baby, baby. Oh, you're my world. Yeah, okay, sure. If that person, whoever they are not in your corner and do not understand what it is that you need to do to achieve, go find somebody else. There were like almost 8 billion people in the world. You tell me you can't find somebody else? Shoot, yeah, you can. So if you find somebody and they're holding you back, you can go find somebody else. I'm just saying, because you don't need them. Because if they cared that much about you, then they'd understand you had to study, that you couldn't go to that every doggone party. I'm just saying. I'm old, but it's the truth. All right. Essential. You got to study. You got to know the material. It just is what it is. You know, you'll see later on what's required for medical school. It's highly competitive. It's not as bad as my transplant fellow. She's awesome. She's from Pakistan. They had 10,000 students competing for 100 spots in her medical school. Those are not good odds. But in the same token, you got to study it till you know the material. But that also doesn't mean you wait till the final minute to study, unless somehow you can do that. My son does that. He writes papers like the last day. I said, you're such a knucklehead. But then he goes back and gets A's and B's. Like, why do you do that? Spread it out. Learn what your studying style is. If you got to stay up to finish the paper or project, you stay up and you finish it. You put your best effort forward all the time. You know, you got to volunteer. I know it's kind of hard now with everything going on with COVID. Shadowing. Yeah, there is a lot of delayed gratification in medicine. There's no question. My 20s and early 30s were spent in the hospital. You know, friends were getting married, and a lot of folks get married in medical school now. But they were going out, getting their lives going and making money, and I was still in debt up to my eyeballs, but I was able to pay all that off. So there is delayed gratification. But as I said, you've got to take time to have balance. You've got to learn to enjoy yourself, somewhere along. If you like to write, go write. You play an instrument, play an instrument. Like take long walks, take whatever it is. You've got to find a balance that you don't get burned out, because all of the things that we do in the medical field takes a lot. Why does it take a lot? Because you have the responsibility of taking care of people, which is a big deal. You know, it's crazy to think that I had people sign a piece of paper and they let me cut them open. Think about that. You sign a piece of paper that gives me the opportunity. That's crazy. But then again, it's my responsibility that I know what I do once I open them up. I can't say, oh, wow, I made an incision. Uh-oh, now what do I do? I can't do that. I got to know what to do. So this slide is a slide of, we're going to talk about the medical school. We have lots of different folks. We pride ourselves in having a diverse community that we're continually try to increase. That is one of our main missions, especially in my office. I'm also assistant dean for medical school diversity and inclusion. So we talked a little bit about who UAB was. You saw that overview, but we really are committed to educating our students about the necessity of learning about everybody else. And there's different sections that we'll go through. But our mission, as it says, is to educate the next generation of physicians to be culturally and socially sensitive to the diverse background of fellow students, faculty, staff, and patients. By doing so, we believe that we will contribute to the elimination of health inequities locally and globally. You got to know who your patients are. You got to know who your friends are. You know, being able to get out of your comfort zone allows you to grow. You know, just like a seed has got to get out of its shell to grow, you got to get out of your shell. But that's one thing that you'll learn as you go through your professional schools, and you're going to be tested, you're going to be stretched. But that's okay, because by doing so, you can find out more about yourself as well. I'm going to skip that one. All right, because just for time. So one of the things that everybody's concerned about is admissions. And as I said, this is about UAB medicine. So I've been on the admissions committee since, oh my gosh, 2008, too long time. But over the last decade or so, we've gone to a more of a holistic admissions process, and we'll get into that. But holistic admissions, in a nutshell, looks at more than just grades, because we found out in the past that there's some folks who have great grades, but they're not very good at talking to people. We've had people with 4.0s and great MCAT scores. They come to the interview and they can't converse. They can't interact. They sit there like a bump on a log, and they don't get in. Because one of the essential features of being a physician, you have to be able to communicate with your patient. You've got to get to where they are. And you think about it, you're going to have all this knowledge, regardless of the field you go into, that you're going to have to distill that information oftentimes down to a 5th to 8th grade level. Okay, so you got all this stuff in your head just waiting to leak out, but you can't throw all that heavy stuff at somebody who has an 8th grade education or is illiterate. They won't understand you. So you have to bring in your compassion and your empathy to understand who they are, where they're coming from, in order to impart to them the information. And sometimes it's hard. It's hard to talk about doing a kidney transplant or doing a vascular access or trying to make someone's life better, and they just don't have the background to understand. But it's also a challenge and a joy to be able to do it, that you're able to educate them about what you're going to do with them. So in the old days, the top bar with experiences, attributes, and metrics were more heavily weighted to academic metrics. That means your grades, your GPA, but also BCPM. And the BCPM is where they pull out biology, chemistry, physics, and math. So it's not only your overall GPA we look at, but it's also your science grades. So that gets pulled out separately. Why is that important? Well, medical school is all about science. All the humanities are important because that'll give you an understanding about where we are as human beings, as a race of humans, culturally. All that's important to broaden your horizons and have a better understanding of life. But in medicine, we have to be able to know that the people coming in are going to be able to do the work. And we'll show you at the end about what you're facing with that. So the best practice is to balance the experience, the attributes, and the metrics. And all of that's important. So you can go on our website, and all of this is there to look at it. The Mcat Change in 2015. They have a new Mcat. There's a new scale. The old scale used to go up to 40. Now it's like 530 or something like that. So our average class Mcat was like 507 to 508. We will look at folks at 495, and then you can look at the GPA, at overall GPA 3.76, and the average BCPM was about a 3.7. That's the biology, chemistry, physics, and math pulled out separately. Why is that important? The combination, and there's lots of different combinations of MCATs and GPAs to try to predict how well someone is going to be able to pass step one. And what's step one? After your second year of medical school, you take a test to see if you've understood all the basic science component and all the modules. After your fourth year, you take another test, step two, that not only tests your knowledge, but it also tests whether or not you're able to do a physical exam. And then you take step three after your first or second year of residency. And then after that, after you go into your discipline, you've got to get board certified. And I probably only have one more to take. I had to take mine every 10 years. And I got one more left to go. So you're going to get tested. So one of the things I always tell folks, that if you have difficulty taking a test, you got to figure out what it is that's impeding you from doing well on the test. And so sometimes you need to get help, be it knowing the material itself, or it could be the way you're reading the question. Don't feel, don't be afraid to go and ask for help to figure out what it is for you to take the test better. So again, this is all on our website. You can look at that. So some of these things, whether or not they'll change in the future, they may, but these are prerequisite core courses, which you're probably aware of. Biology, 8 semester hours. Chemistry, of which organic is a big part. Biochemistry is the most important. There's different combinations now with organic and biochem, but biochem is the linchpin, because a lot of the new MCAT is based on biochemistry. You've got to know that because we're going into medicine, biology, chemistry, biochem. So it's extremely important to do well and make sure you take that. You really shouldn't take the MCAT till you've had biochemistry. You really shouldn't. So unless you're just a genius and you do, there's some folks that are like that. But having biochemistry is very important to look at that. And also the MCAT, you can go on the AAMC website to see what they call it the new MCAT. It's up to 5 years now, to see all the different components of it. Mathematics, statistics is becoming more important, and biostats as well. English is important because you have to converse. You've got to be able to write well. You've got to be able to interact, especially if you're going to write papers. If you're going to go into academic medicine, you got to know how to write properly and speak properly. But also the English allows you to have a good, rich understanding of just humanities. Physics, and now there's a behavioral science and social science component of the MCAT that wasn't there before. So all that's important. So this is summary again, minimum UAB, we will look at folks at 495. But that looks at all those different components of the basic sciences. But folks coming in with MCATs of 500 or lower, you're really going to have BCPMs that are very high, like 3.7, 3.8, 3.9. The reason being is that you can't have a low MCAT and a lower BCPM, because the chances of passing that step one is much, much higher. The chances of failing it is much higher. So there's lots of different components. We do take folks with MCATs less than 500. We do take, a lot of folks end up taking extra courses afterward to boost their BCPM, and we do have a post-baccalaureate course that does that. So there's lots of different combinations. But the biggest thing is making sure you take the time to study and get the grades. And if you have trouble, ask somebody. And again, there's new features of the MCAT, broader preparation, and asking you to apply what you've learned. And again, there's new components of behavioral and social cultural aspects of health, and lots of new stuff. So it's very important that you look over that. If you're able to do a prep course and you think you need it, then that would be worthwhile too. Another big component of what we look at in holistic admissions is personal attributes in terms of responsibility to yourself and others. And are you socially and culturally competent? Have you gone out and community service? Have you put yourself out and gotten out of your comfort zone? Do you go to nursing homes? Do you go in socioeconomically deprived neighborhoods? Those are the types of things that show us that you are really empathetic and that you care about your fellow human being. You know, like we said, we have people who have great grades, but they haven't done anything else. All they've done is study. But those types of folks just are not well-rounded, and we need well-rounded people, because you're going to come across a lot of folks. I've had many patients that have come in. I ask them how they're doing, and they may have missed a dose of their anti-rejection medicine, which is extremely important for a transplant. And I ask them why. And they said because they didn't have the money, because they had to pay rent or they had to buy food. So even though as a physician, I want them obviously to take care of their transplant since it's precious, but I am completely empathetic to them. And so therefore, knowing where they are, I call social worker and try to help them take care of what they need to take care of. But it's not uncommon for us to have that, or have other patients come in and start crying because their spouse or their children are abusing them. So medicine takes on lots of different components. It's not just going in and writing someone a prescription. It's sitting down, sometimes holding their hand and trying to find out where they are. And going out in the community will allow you to figure out if this is what you really want to do. Do you really want to take care of patients and people? It also helps you develop your communication skills. And we look at that in your essay. Your essay is important. And I believe later on there's a component where we'll look over personal essays, do mock interviews with you and all. And we'll talk about the MMI in a little bit. But you got to be able to communicate effectively and have ongoing service. Shadowing is extremely important in order to understand the doctor-patient relationship. You got to understand that, it's, as I was trying to say, it's not just telling people, well, you have X diagnosis, I'm going to prescribe you X, Y, and Z. Okay, goodbye, have a good day. It's really about sitting down, looking that patient in the eye, and caring about them, regardless of what you go. Dentists do the same thing. Physical therapy, you're sitting there, someone comes in with a broken leg or tendon or whatever else, and you got to meet them where they are and find out what they can do, what their home situation is like, what they might be able to accomplish or not. So therefore, medicine and all these disciplines are extremely important to have people that are willing to be people persons, that you want to give yourself to other people and have time for them. Research is important. If you're able to do it, do it. It's not as important as it used to be, at least for our institution, but it's important because it teaches you teamwork and also stretches you as well. And also, if you have opportunities for leadership, that's extremely important. We have folks that become presidents and vice presidents in their frats and sororities, or they're head of their Greek organizations. All those things are important because physicians oftentimes end up as leaders in their community, especially if you come from a small community and you're going back to that community. Oftentimes the physician is the one that the community is going to look toward in order for guidance. So building those leadership qualities is extremely important. So as you can see, we're looking for a lot of different components. Again, it's not just the academic. Academics are extremely important because we got to get you through the testing. But we're also looking for well-rounded people. And this program will hopefully show you those aspects as well. And dentistry is very similar as well. So interview, you got to look nice when you go to your interview. You know, it's not going out Saturday night. You can't take your Saturday night outfit to an interview. It has happened. You would be surprised. Some people come to interviews, say like, whoa, did you take the wrong bus? And like, what are you wearing? And like, okay, no, it's professional. So it's important to be able to dress appropriately when you go on the interview. And always show up early. Like wherever you go, my parents used to say, if you're 5 minutes early, you're 15 minutes late. All right, get there early. Wherever you're going, I don't care what you're going to. Show up early and then look your best, speak your best. So what we do is that we have a combination of a traditional interview. We used to have 3 traditional interviews, but there's a new component called an MMI, which I'll talk about. But during that traditional interview, as an interviewer, I don't know grades. I don't care about grades. If someone gets an interview to UAB, then they have the academics to make it through. Excuse me. We're looking for those non-academic attributes, all the things I talked about. And people put in their interview all the things they've done. And if you volunteered, I'm going to ask you, well, what'd you learn from your volunteering? Tell me about what you did. Tell me about a patient you saw. How did that patient influence you? How did that patient and that experience with those docs solidify your desire to want to become a physician? So those are the things you have to be able to articulate. All the experiences that you go through, all of them are not going to have the same weight, but you have to try to glean different things out of all of them. Why? Because it makes you introspective. You can look at yourself. How did I grow? What did I learn? Life is about learning, and doing all those experiences will help you do that. But as this says, we're blinded to letters of recommendation. Everybody writes good letters of recommendation. However, I will say, you got to make sure that whoever you have write a letter is going to write you a nice letter. You would be sometimes surprised. Sometimes that doesn't happen. And like, why did they ask this person to write them a letter? And it's like lukewarm. Like, okay, well, that wasn't too good. So it's important that you find people who will write letters for you, that'll write really good letters for you. So this is a multiple mini interview, and we have eight stations, and they vary, and they ask you different scenarios. But what those, and they each are about 6 to 8 minutes long, and you go from room to room to room. And we did this in order to get away from all the traditional interviews. We kept that, but these multiple mini interviews gives us an idea of how people react in different situations. There are different scenarios that we use, and there are no right or wrong answers, but it gives us an idea of how you interact with folks and how you can think. So that's why English and all those humanities are important, because it gets you out of just the core sciences. Because the core sciences aren't going to teach you how to interact. You might think poetry or learning English or any type of history isn't worthwhile, but reading it will expand your mind, expand your vocabulary, but it'll also make you more well-rounded. That's why those folks who might have a 4.0 across the board in great grades, but they can't converse because they don't have any background other than their books. But as I said, we want folks that can interact with patients. So UAB is unique. Not all schools have this. We have multiple campuses. We have 4 campuses: Birmingham, Huntsville, Tuscaloosa, and Montgomery. And we have 187 students in the class usually. And we break them up in their 3rd and 4th years to go to these different campuses. Tuscaloosa is now dedicated to a primary care track. We in Alabama, being a more or semi-rural state, and it's more rural than the metropolitan. The cities that you're looking at are the main metropolitan areas. There's 2 in the South Alabama, Mobile and Dothan, which are more metropolitan. But the rest of the state is very rural, especially the Black Belt. The Black Belt has some of the poorest counties in the United States. And we have students that go down there to help in that area. And it's called black belt because of the soil, but there's a lot of poor folks down there. And so our goal in our state is to train physicians that are going to stay in Alabama, but we send folks all over the world, but also to get to know all these, to know all the different patients we have. We have primary care track, rural medical scholars, and you can see how and we have different number of students that go to each. And each of these different campuses has a different benefit. And so once you get accepted, applicants receive an email and you rank your campuses where you want to go. Some folks have preferences for Birmingham more than the other ones, but they all have their pluses and minuses. But overall, we try to make the experiences pretty much similar. And we have folks that go into surgery from all of these different campuses and all the different disciplines. So they're very equal. Let me know. There are lots of different tracks. Early decision, those folks decide early on, I'm going to go to UAB. And once they get in, they don't apply anywhere else. Regular MD track, MD, MBA, MD, and Masters of Public Health, MD, PhD for folks that are really, really smart. That wasn't me. Those are folks that love the science and do all of that. I couldn't do that. But that takes longer. That usually takes 7-8 years total, because after the second year, you go in the lab for 3-4 years to get your PhD. And then you come back and do your 3rd or 4th year. Primary care track is really big. We love our primary care docs. We don't have enough primary care docs in the United States because we really need to work on prevention, because you don't want to get to me. You don't want to have such bad hypertension and diabetes that it knocked out your kidney that now you need dialysis, and we got to wait for someone to pass away and give you a kidney. You know, primary care is extremely important in order to get folks healthier, such they don't get so bad they need me. Rural programs, and we also have early medical school admission programs. That's primarily for UAB students, where we take them out of high school and they go into a program through college. They still do their 4 years, but they have, as long as they meet metrics, they get into medical school. So the overview for the curriculum, and I'm going since I only have 15 minutes. It's 4 years. You have pre-clerkship years. Those are the first 2 years. Scholarly activity in the yellow box. That's where you get a project that everybody does, different ones, but it's what you like to do. And it helps, again, expand you, do research in there. Not formal bench work, but it can be any type of research. And then required clerkships. All right, let me take a sip. All right, so here's an example. So if you look in the pink area for this year 1, they talk about doctor, patient, and society. It's just an overview along with getting introduced to medicine, get your white coat and all of that. And then fundamentals, 9 weeks. And in fundamentals, they are trying to get everybody on the same page. Everybody's coming from different areas, different backgrounds, different grades and all of that. So fundamentals is where they will throw everything at you, all that basic science, all that biochemistry, all those components, that all that stuff you learned in 4 years, they're gonna do it in 9 weeks. Yeah, it's a lot. But this is why you need to have the good grades that have a firm foundation, that when you come in there, you don't come out looking like Freddy Krueger and get all burnt up. You guys don't know. That's Nightmare on Elm Street. I'm so old. Y'all weren't even born. But the fundamentals can be tough. But that's why we want to make sure that people have the foundation that they can get through it. Okay? It's extremely, it's a way to see where everybody is and get everybody on the same page going forward, because you have to have the foundation before you go forward. Just like you do general chemistry before you do organic chemistry, usually, and then do biochemistry afterwards, because everything builds in everything. So fundamentals builds on takes all that stuff you learn, gets everybody on the same page before you start to get in the organ modules. And you can see that there's cardiovascular, pulmonary, GI, renal, and then they finally give you a break. But you need to have that fundamental, because once they'll talk about normal anatomy, physiology, but they'll also talk about pathophysiology. And the pathophysiology is the abnormal aspect of that physiology. So you have to have an understanding of all of that. So just like you learn your Krebs cycle, you learn your glycolysis, you learn about ATP, ADP, how much is made. Yeah, I remember all that stuff, Bear. It's been like 50 some odd years. Yeah, I know like glycolysis goes down to pyruvate, then goes to acetyl-CoA, the Krebs cycle. See, I remember that stuff so much, like burned into my head. You know, NADPH and FAD, all that stuff. It's just like I just shake when I think about that. But you have to know that in order to go to the next level. You got to know the foundation in order to know when it goes out of whack, what it is that went out of whack. Okay, it's not to be mean, because remember, I have a person sign a piece of paper and they let me cut them open. Or you're somewhere, you sign a piece of paper and you're going to drill in their head to do their root canal. Or they sign a piece of paper and you're going to help them recover from their injury with PT. Or you come in and you got to figure out what's going on with their eyes. And if you don't know your anatomy, you won't know what you're looking at. If I looked at an eyeball, I wouldn't know what I was doing, because I don't do that. I do what I do. But whatever you go into, you got to be the best at what you do. Okay, that's year one. Again, fundamentals gets everybody on the same page. Then you go organ modules. Then you get a summer break, and it may change, but that's what it is. And then you have more organ modules: musculoskeletal, neurosciences, hematology, oncology, endocrine, all that stuff. And then at the end of that second year, I think it's in 8 weeks, they give you off to get dedicated time to study for step one. All the medical students in the country do it. And I think it's going to pass fail nationally. I think so. But still, you still have to know what you're doing, because it's an important test, because if you don't do well on it, it's going to make it extremely hard to get a fellowship. So all that fundamentals, all that structure is to get you to the point of taking step one. But we have folks at UAB, and most medical schools have it, but medical student services, they find out your weaknesses, they help you. If you need tutoring, it's okay. It's not a sign of weakness if you need to be tutored. It's all right. It is what it is. But you got to figure out, you don't want to get behind. So, but most medical schools, and we certainly have it at UAB, to help folks get the best grades they can and to learn the material. And then after that, you different blocks. Once you pass your step one, then all these different blocks, they're core clerkships like medicine, surgery, OBGYN, psychiatry, and I forget the last one. And then after that, you have an idea of what you really like. And then you can start to do AIs, which are sub-internships, where you go back into what you like and you focus on that. But you can also do other things. Like I did radiology, I did infectious disease, I did GI, other things that I wasn't going to go into, but things that I still remember as a surgeon. And so then in the fourth year, you have electives. And during all this time, you're doing your scholarly activity. I believe you have to have that by the time you're done. And this is UAB's. All schools are different, but fundamentally, it's getting everybody on the same page, doing all the organ blocks, and then getting out to the clinic to apply everything that you've learned. Also at UAB, we have learning communities where you're broken down. I think there are 11 of them with folks from first year through fourth year, where they have different interactive sessions, and you get to talk to folks from first to fourth year. Again, we try to have folks believe it's a big family, so you can learn from each other, and you can certainly learn from other students that have been through what you're going to be going through. This is UAB. It's a big hospital, as I said. Upper left is our main hospital. Upper right is women and children's. All this stuff, I am so old. All of this stuff has been built except for the one in the lower right since I've been here. I've been here too long. All right, so upper left is the North Pavilion and the Cancer Center. Upper right is Women and Children's and Infants, neonatology. Bottom left is a new children's hospital. It's the third largest children's hospital in the United States. I work there too. I do pediatric kidney transplants. So I put kidneys in 1 and 2 year old babies. And they're well renowned there. And then the bottom right is the old, I think from the 1940s, 1950s, Jefferson Tower. And UAB has gotten numerous awards in multiple disciplines. And as I said, you can go on our website and see lots of different components of what we do. So one thing that I learned long ago, I got a little bit of time, the 3Ds. When I was in high school, I went to go get my hair cut. It used to be a lot longer then, back in the 70s. Like, yeah, I'm old. I said that before. But I went in one time, and Mary was cutting this person's hair. And she introduced him as, and he was a orthopedic surgeon, Dr. Mitchell. And he sat there and asked me what I wanted to do, much like you all. And then he went in to talk about the 3Ds. I said, I don't get D's. I do well in school. No, he didn't say that. No, we talked about desire, determination, and dedication. So we talked about desire. You know, is this truly the focus of your heart? Regardless of what it is that you want to do. Because without that desire, you're not going to have power, passion, and no purpose. This has got to be your focus. No question. Because the road is long and windy. It's not impossible, but you've got to want it enough that this is your heart. And that's where you go into determination. Are you willing to make the sacrifices necessary to achieve your dream? I always say success is 10% ability. It's important, but you got to be tenacious, because regardless of how smart you are, there are going to be obstacles in your way, and you're going to have to overcome. It's just life. And sometimes those obstacles are close to you, and those are the hardest. It is very difficult for some kids who have these great dreams, but their families don't understand. They don't, why are you studying so much? Why are you doing that? Why you want to spend the money? But it's okay. You can pay it off in the end. Because what I always told my son and my daughter, I don't want you to get to be 30, 40 years old and say, I wish I should have. I wish I could have. You know, you find out what you want to do, and be determined that you're going to achieve that goal. And then you got to be dedicated. I talked about it. Regardless of the obstacles, you have to persevere through it. I've had many obstacles thrown in my way, but through faith and family, you know, I was dedicated. I was going to do this no matter what. And as I said at the end, dedication is a relentless pursuit of a dream, an unquenchable fire that consumes a person to the degree that failure is not an option. I know that may sound cliche, but you know, if you're dedicated, you're going to do what you need to do to achieve your dream. So the road, like we said, 4 years of medical school, 1 to 2 basic science, 3 to 4 clinical, 3 to 6 years of residency. Medicine can be shorter if you go out and practice primary care medicine, pediatrics, but it's not uncommon for folks to do a fellowship, which may tack on 1 to 3 years or more, especially with surgery. Fellowships can come in. That's where you concentrate more in an area. I did general surgery, but I concentrated in transplantation and more testing. They're going to test you forever. But in the end, you're going to be a doctor the rest of your life. So, in closing almost, you got to define your desire and map out your plan. It's okay to do that. And you have to honestly evaluate your abilities. You absolutely honestly have to see what you do well and what you don't do so well. I knew I wasn't going to be a physicist because I got through physics and I got through math, but I had to work too doggone hard to do it. It just didn't come naturally. Some folks just do it. I had a friend named Bubba. Bubba was great. Bubba, he ran track with me. I opened Bubba's math book. I said, Bubba, there are no numbers in this math book. I said, yeah. So I said, Bubba, how can you do math without numbers? He said, I don't even know what he does. Now he works for the NSA, and years ago I used to call him, and I know that they were listening in. He still to this day cannot tell me what he does. I don't even ask because I don't want him to have to kill me. But Bubba was brilliant. He was a great runner as well. But he was a math whiz. I knew I wasn't. I found out what I did well, and I found out what I didn't do well, and I try to do my best to make what I didn't do well better. And it's okay to find that. Take appropriate courses, and you work hard to get that A. And ask for help, like I said, rather than languishing. You know, go ask for help. Don't sit there and get behind when you need help. And as I said, for this UAB, take advantage of, regardless where you are at your school, and enjoy your college years, but you got to stay focused. And just like Usain Bolt, he's retired now for a while. He was dedicated. You know, no one as tall as he was at 6'5" had ever been able to run 100 meters like him. It's very difficult for someone that tall to run that fast under over 100 meters. But he was able to overcome that, and look what he did. So regardless of what you go into, you can win the race. You just have to put your mind to it. Remember the 3 Ds, and we're always going to be here. You're part of our family now, and regardless of where you go, we'd love you to come here. That you can always call us. We're going to be here for advice, and I certainly hope you enjoy your time with us. Thank you. All right, so I don't know if you have questions. We can try to do that. I guess I have to stop sharing my screen. There we go. 53 in the chat. Oh my gosh, how am I going to get through all that? All right.
We're almost out of time. I'm saving all the chats, and we'll address all the questions. We won't have time to address everything now, but we'll make sure that we have time to, we'll address the questions. I sent an announcement out. I've put a discussions page on all of the specialties. So if you have a question and it doesn't get addressed, make sure you put it in there, and we'll make sure we get back with you if you have any questions.
Yeah, we'll get to it.
Yeah.
I can't read all of them. I know it was hard, but it's okay. Medicine's hard. PT's hard. You can make it. It's all good. But we're gonna be here to help you. But we'll go through it as Carmel said, and we'll try to get to the questions as well. Okay. What do I do now?
I think in the interest of time, we'll take we'll end this session so we can restart in the optometry session. In case anybody's coming in late, we want to keep on track with our Zoom meetings. So Dr. Young, thank you very much for presenting, and everyone, if you can log out and log back in again in the 1:30 session.
All right, we'll see you tomorrow for more fun. All right, guys, take care.
All right, bye everyone. See you in a minute.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. I got to figure out how to get out.